Oh my god, it's a mirage. I'm getting your sabotage.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. A Wednesday night podcast, no less. What we're going to have tonight, we're going to have Pops, Papa Bear Odin. He's going to come on. He's going to tell us his story. And a trigger warning, it may trigger some of you. So I'm going to bring him in. I'm going to let him talk. We'll shoot the shit for a minute or two, see if we can get some numbers going on in here. But anyways, here is Pops, if my mouse will move. There we go. What's up, brother?
Hey. Okay, I can do this.
Yeah, you've been sweating all fucking day, huh?
I'm not gonna lie. Every time I go into my story, it's like, you reach into the dark and you get that oily feeling. Yeah.
I feel that. I hear that. I don't know if we got 5 people up in here so far. I'm assuming that 2 of them are Pops and Thumper, maybe Inky. Nobody in the comments that I can see. So you got past it and you're here tonight.
Yeah, it's kind of the reason why when people play the victim card, I don't have any sympathy, like, at all.
Yeah, I hear you there. And God, a lot of them play the victim card. A lot of them.
Yes. One of my favorite sayings is, "How deep is the shit that your life is in is relative to who you are."
Very well. You got any background noise from me?
Say again?
Are you getting any background noise from me or anything?
You're freezing a little. I don't know if it's me or you.
It might be the storm. That is fair warning for anybody that jumps in. Yet again, we've got some hellacious thunderstorms going on around here. So if I lose internet service, we will announce a new day and we will pick this up again. So Thumper, glad you all moved it so I can be here. We didn't do it for you. So, Pops.
Oh, go ahead.
I had a question, and I want to clarify. You are not the motherfucker that they doxed online, are you?
No.
No, so to sit there and accuse somebody of being what they accused you of, I hope you eat a lot of fucking crow tonight, you idiots, because he's going to tell you exactly what he went through.
Well, not only that, but that wasn't even my first time. Back in August of 2021, somebody sat here and accused me of what I was a survivor of. And it was just like, it totally hit me out of the blue, because the number of people that I have told that part of my story is like 10 total. And they came out of nowhere. So I knew it was somebody that I thought I could trust that betrayed me. And then my address came out and I knew exactly who it was. So, so I left the app, but I didn't leave the app for that story. However, it's kind of funny because that's actually when I had positive attitude towards Swede, believe it or not. Because he was one of the few people who stood up for me. And I wrote to him telling him that I was leaving the app. They're using my weapon. They're using my past as a weapon. And more importantly, the reason I actually left, because the story that I'm about to tell doesn't affect, or anybody coming at me about it doesn't bother me. it is my own trauma and dredging it up. Like I can compartmentalize it, but to actually talk about it is like you get that inky feeling and it's like, ugh. So I left because they had doxed my address, or what they thought was my address. It's actually my one of my Marine Corps buddies who takes my
Ooh, that
packages
was
because I'm legally blind. So if you come to
that's
that
what it
address,
was.
just be advised he suffers from a severe case of PTSD. So just thought I'd throw that out there. But so but because my son is on TikTok, he saw the address that was associated and thought that they were getting too close. He started to have nightmares. And I can be very patient. You want to attack my past, you want to sit here and come at me, this is fine. But you come after my son, and I will nuke you from orbit. And you're going to feel really bad when you get your ass kicked by a blind guy. So, so let me start at the beginning, I guess. Are we ready to
Go for it.
start?
It's your show, pops.
All right. So let's start at the beginning. I grew up in a very abusive household. Like to the point where I would walk around with welts and cuts and I have scars all over my body, and it has nothing to do with the trauma that we're actually talking about tonight. That was my base level. So it got to the point where my mother and my father split. They got a divorce, and uh, they got a divorce. So it forced me and my sister and my mother to live with our aunt in this little itty bitty appointment or apartment. They could not afford for one of them to stay at home to take care of the kids. Now I'm 5 at the time, so they get a babysitter. All right. So here's your trigger warning. I am going to talk about human trafficking and how easy and manipulated it is. So they got a babysitter, and it was a female who was respected in the community, had all of these records. So my mother and my aunt, they sit here and they went to work, and I was taken care of by a babysitter, you know, and everything was fine for a while. And then, uh, well, the babysitter sit here and brought me into a room, and I will always be triggered to the point where there are certain sounds that instantly get all of my red flags, and the sound of a latch inside of a door that locks will always set me off. Uh, not trigger me like I freeze up, but put me on fight or flight mode.
Yeah.
So she would bring me in there. I was apparently the special one,
Sorry,
and
Tater was in here. I gotta readjust.
oh, that's fine. So I sit here and uh, I was the special one. She would pull me into her room. She would lock that door, and she would look at me and she tell me that it starts off with we're just gonna take a nap together. I'm 5. I don't know any better, right? And it wasn't until I got to the age of 6, right? Like there was that level of grooming that uh, if you sit here and your sister and your cousin, right? So there's a 4-year old, which is my sister, and there is a 1-year old who was my cousin. And she would say, uh, they're going to sleep in their room. You're going to sleep in here with me. And the grooming over a year, right? About how this was acceptable and you were the special one and all that stuff. And for a 5-year-old, okay. And then at the age of 6, more stuff started to happen. The inappropriate touching, uh, the uh, uh, it became more and more sexual, and it didn't go right away. It was like she's trying to feel me out at what point I would fight back. But at 6, I didn't know any better. I sit here and I was, I was just, I was the special one, and
Keep talking. I'll be right back.
all right, and uh, so it got to the point where um, it became sexual, and the first time it happened, I implicitly remember freaking out, and that's when it went from coddling and grooming to threats of violence. Well, if you don't do it, your sister. Or if you don't do it, your cousin, who was one. And I didn't know any different. I just knew that my sister was not going to be a victim, and neither was my cousin. So I didn't say anything. Uh, and the abuse got worse and worse and more, uh, more intense. And I could deal with it when it was just her. But then it wasn't her anymore. Then it was her and her friends. And then it was her and it wasn't even her anymore. Like, she would take me to other um she would take me to other places, and they would, you know, they would exchange drugs or alcohol for me. And I put up with it for a little over a year. Um and then one time it was just enough. And I'm a uh, so I'm gonna talk about something that some people don't know. It was at that point I heard what I called the voice, right? And I found out later that this is pretty common, right? There was a voice that said fight back. It was, and it didn't seem like me, but it was this inner rage, right? Oh, I can't cry already. I'm only like 10 minutes in my story. Uh, so 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 I got this rage, and they had put me in a closet, and I started to beat on the closet door, and they brought somebody else in, and to deal with me, and I used coat hanger and put it in their cheek and ripped, and they flipped out. I broke out of the house, and I was within a neighborhood that I had known, and the only one I knew to go to was my grandfather. And the reason that I chose him was because he's got some connections. And so I was in California at the time, and to get to his house, right, it was a 30-mile walk. I made it 28 miles walking down the highway before a police officer pulled over to the side of the road and asked me what I'm doing. Here I am, this 7-year-old walking down a fucking highway all by myself, and just pissed, so angry. He asked me what was going on. I told him I was going to my grandfather's house. Uh, but that programming is, if you say anything, your sister and your cousin will suffer. So I didn't say anything. I told them that, I wanted to go visit, right? I got in a fight, uh, and sit here, and uh, I wanted to go visit my grandfather because that was my safe spot, or so I thought. So he brought me back to my abuser, to my babysitter. Now, had I known what the term child trafficking was at the time, I might have thrown some clues, but I had no idea. Like, I didn't know that this was a symbol for help. Right? None of that. And so here's where my story gets painful. I fought back, and they raped my sister to prove a point. And it has emotionally fucked with her so much that, but I knew at that point that it was, I knew at that point that it was my duty, my calling to protect her and to protect others. So I had to degrade myself in the worst possible ways that you could imagine for a 7-year-old. And for the next, like, I dropped subtle hints to my my mother and my father. My father didn't care. He told me I was being a pussy and I didn't have reason to complain about anything. I had a good life. My sister, everybody wanted to focus on her about what had happened, that because she didn't know who it was. So it was just this mystery incident. And then we finally got rid of the babysitter, and I felt this huge, huge amount of relief. Little did I know that she recommended a replacement. And that replacement was actually the person who was in charge of the whole operation. So now I'm in the den of lions. Luckily, because I was willing to be absolutely and utterly humiliated for my sister, they left her alone. They left my cousin alone. I started to cut myself to show bruises. I sit here and I have scars that are personally like that I have cut into my body. And when people ask me about them, I tell them it's because I'm clumsy or I did stupid shit when I was growing up. And it's just because it's easier to sit here and make jokes that I'm an idiot or the blind guy, right, who just like fell off of a fucking roof or cut themselves with a knife. So because it's easier to be an asshole than for people to look at you with pity in their eyes. Because I'm not a fucking victim. I'm a survivor. I fought back against that shit as much as I could with the age. It wasn't until the age of 11 that we finally moved out of the state. And finally, I was free. And it was such a feeling. It, but once you're already set up for victim, the predators know. Like they can, which is why I don't call myself a victim, I'm a survivor. They know. They can scent it on you. And I don't know how that works, but I would have other people that would try to come back. But at this point, that voice inside of your head, that voice inside of your head, that voice that talked to me when I was 6 came back. And it said, fucking fight. It warned me. It was my warning system. And it'd sit here and it would tell me and it would tell me to fight. So I became a bully, an actual bully, not what they talk about on TikTok, an actual bully. If you went after somebody well, it's not really a bully. I was the anti-bully bully because I was always the big kid, right? And I trained. I told my grandfather what had happened. That's why we left the state. He paid for us to move halfway across the country to get me away from that. But he did more than that. He trained me how to fight and hurt people. Like, really hurt people. He says, don't ever be a fucking victim. Be a survivor. It is your job. You have seen the evil in this world. That darkness that you have gone through makes you a light when you rise above it for others in the dark. So I started training. I trained a lot. And we sit here and we did a bunch of different fighting styles and different ways to cause pain so that it wouldn't happen. And it helped with the rage aspect. Like, I used to punch through fences and cinder blocks when I got mad because I didn't know how to direct it. My grandfather was what had my back, but he sit here and he allowed me to channel my anger, but not to u- use it effectively, like for a purpose. But I became the anti-bully bully. I sit here, and if you picked on somebody who was smaller than you, I would beat your ass, no questions. It got so bad that they started to send me to special schools. It, I started to, I started to become a problem legally. Uh, so they sent me to counseling, but I didn't tell my story because it's my fucking story. And every time I put my hands in that story, I feel like I'm dirty, right? I am I am I am trash is probably the best way to that was my self-esteem. And it really fucked me up because for a long time I couldn't feel the emotion of love because I did not associate sex and love together, right? Sex was a power play, right? And even at 12, I was extremely sexually active, but it was for manipulation purposes. I had learned all of the wrong things about love and sex. And I'm gonna be honest, it wasn't until I met my wife that I got my head unscrewed because she loved me for my character. And she was willing to, when I would have the nightmares at night, she was willing to sit here and just hold me and take care of me. She loved me even though I was crazy and psychotic. Because I'm gonna be honest, I was, and that's
So do
why,
we.
huh?
I said, so do we.
Yes, Mama Bear whipped me into shape. So she's here, and so I found my counselor had me talk to somebody who was who was just he went through a similar situation. Like again, they never called it human trafficking or uh childhood sexual assault, right? It
It was
was,
organized prostitution.
yeah. Well, when I was growing up, even into my teens, when I sit here and looked at it, it was stuff like it was stuff like you know, the the crates, the big metal Connex boxes, right? That they
Yeah.
would smuggle across the border, and they'd open it up, and there'd be 1,000 Chinese or whatever, prostitutes that were smuggled across. That type of thing. That's really in my head for a long time. That's what I thought human trafficking was. So I would never
No.
call myself a survivor of human trafficking. It wasn't until I got much older. Actually, I didn't call it. I worked with human trafficking organizations, and I didn't start to realize that I had built up all these mental blocks in my head until I started to deal with people like To A Patriot Mama and Yakko Booyans, where they sit here and they broke it down, and it started to make sense in my head that this is what had happened to me, and so I found somebody who was similar to me. I'm sorry, I jump all the way around, but it's I found some they had hooked me up with somebody who went through a situation similar to me. Now his was familial. Mine was not. But we still talked, and he said that you're going to have issues with anger for a long time. And the fact that you can now hurt people and have been hurting people means that you need to don't don't fall into the old stigma of becoming an abuser because you were abused. He listened to my story. It was the first time I had ever told my story out loud to somebody. And he says it's because you are a defender at heart. You are a shield wall. You don't want to see anybody else get attacked, which is why when people come after my friends, I kind of go a little off. It's not my fault. But so so he says, so defend people. So he hooked me up with different service organizations so that I could defend and serve people and to do the good things. And when I finally got older, I when I turned 16, I had a buddy of mine who ran a bail bondsman, so I became uh, a skip trace. I could hurt people and defend people at the same time. Bonus.
And get paid for it.
Yeah. And so, but unfortunately, I had hurt somebody bad. And I had to go in front of a judge, and I was one of the last groups of people that got to make a choice. You can go to jail or you can join the military. So I joined the military. I joined the Navy where I
I
could
think I
where I
never
could
went to jail.
I love the Navy. I mean, it was what I needed in my life. It was very regimented.
You know
It,
what? I say that it wasn't the Navy that I hated. It was the fact that my ex-wife wanted to follow me, and that was a no. That was a no.
ah, yeah.
Like I left my misery at home. I'm over here doing this fun shit. Leave me the hell alone.
I loved being at sea. It was very regimented. It had uh it had its own, power structure. But you know, if you were um good on your feet, if you knew how to make deals, if you knew how to do all of this stuff, right?
Oh, if you were a shyster in the Navy, you had it made.
I was the
You
Ricky
had it
Ninja.
made.
Do you remember the term Ricky Ninja?
Yeah.
That was me. I could get you anything. Anything on the ship, I could get it for you.
I
Anything.
was the ninja that got you the movies over the base Wi-Fi.
Now the downside to that is, like, I was a ET in the Navy, an electronics technician, which means I worked with radios, radars, the phone system. So I could get favors because I could have people make phone calls at sea.
I
I
was
could
the
allow
HA.
that. So I so I would make stuff disappear from one department and end up in another department, only for them. Yes, I was a Sparky, and uh, so all of that worked really well. The only downside to that particular reputation is that whenever something happened on the ship, the master at arms would show up.
Yep.
Like, we know that you know who caused this. And every time my answer was I have no idea. So, and if I did know, I wasn't going to tell you.
You had
Like
to have
somebody,
you had to have a ninja in electronics communications. You had to have a ninja in supply, and you better damn well have a fucking ninja sitting, somewhere in the command structure. Maybe not a ninja, but somebody that knows what you're doing and lets you get away with it.
so I was really good at my job and getting stuff done. I got meritoriously capped to petty officer second grade, right? Or second class, right? I got capped, right? So the captain went, he did a really good job because I would do the crazy shit nobody else would do. I'm on the mast of an aircraft carrier in the middle of a storm fixing flight ops radios, and I'm not even tied off, right? Because it slowed me down. I had no fear, none, right? So I would do the crazy shit, and I got recommendations and medals for all of that shit. And it was awesome, but it was just, I didn't care if I lived or died, so I had no fear of it. And I
Which is nice.
started to get, huh?
Our calm person wouldn't fucking come out of the goddamn box unless there was 2 dozen donuts and a half a case of fucking beer involved.
Well, here, I'll give you one story. Uh, we used to hear and we had to fix the whip radars, right, on the
Yeah.
flight deck.
Oh no,
And
no.
and they were stuck in the up position, right?
Ooh.
So I sit here and I tied my harness, because we're at sea, we're actively driving, right? Or sailing, right? I tied my harness around the whip antenna and jumped off the side of the ship so
You're a
that it would cause enough of that counterweight, which was rusted, to come down, right? I almost got in trouble for that.
military grade.
So, like, I got a counseling session. I had a counseling session from my work center supervisor shortly before he retired, and I told him that I was working, and
I bet. I fucking bet.
if he wanted to counsel me, that he had to come with me. So we're on a JLG, the cherry pickers, right?
Oh,
In port, right? And I'm attaching those whip radios together. And he wants to talk about my behavior and how uh, he doesn't recommend that I should be advanced, that I should be, discharged from the Navy. So I extend the cherry picker all 35 feet over the side of the ship. So we're over the water. And then I jump. And the back wheels of the JLG go up just a little bit. I did not know this at the time, or I probably would have thought differently, but my work center supervisor was afraid of heights. Needless to say, I didn't get any counseling, but I did get sent TAD to like different ships, and like they would send me to different duty stations to keep me out of the department. They were trying to hope that it would curb my dangerous lack of self-preservation.
yeah.
So one of the TAD trips, my last one, was with security, because they figured that if I'm just watching cameras or running around the ship with a loaded firearm, everything would be okay. And
They thought wrong.
so they put me on a 50 cal mount during the general quarter. That was my general quarter station, was a 50 cal mount. And being the big guy, I had to carry it, but they wouldn't let me fire it. Right. So there was an accident on the ship with a 50 cal.
Oh no.
We sit here and we went to general quarters, just training, where they were going to do the 50 cal firing. They did the Sea Whiz first. They're going to do the 50 cals. We were given the order to rack around. And so they put one in the chamber. And we waited there for 4.5 hours on station in the middle of the Persian Gulf, and nothing happened. They canceled it because you had the little goat herder boats that cross the Persian Gulf all the time. That that the ship that I was on at the time, the USS John F. Kennedy, had to have front lights put on because it had run over so many of the small ships. So they would travel back and forth, and we're not allowed to fire if they're within range. So 4.5 hours go by. They call an end to the exercise. We put the guns away. The gunner who was in charge. Oh, go ahead.
Did they send her the breakers before you left, or did you fuck it up enough that they had to after you left?
About the breakers?
Did they send the Kennedy to the breakers before or after you?
Oh no, after. I was hoping that I would retire on that ship. I actually re-enlisted.
So only after you left did the duct tape fall off of shit, and they were like, "What the?"
Probably.
Yeah.
So 4.5 hours go by. The gun captain in charge of the 50 cal goes, "Hey, they're going to do a contest next time, so you can get it said first. Let's leave the barrel on the 50 cal." All right, that's fine. I can carry it with the barrel on. They took the belt off, but never removed the round from the gun. So somebody asked me this question in one of the chats. How close does your face need to be, or does a body need to be when a 50 cal goes by? I'm going to tell you, I don't know, but 8 inches is classified as a miracle. So here's what happened. I sit here and I went to carry I went to carry the 50 cal in front of the gun locker and set it down. The round that was still in it, because they took the belt off, the one in the round, if they had taken the barrel off, it would have automatically ejected the round. But because
Yeah.
they left the barrel on, when I set it on the ground, most people don't know this, but the 50 cals on the side of a ship are pressure actuated. Right? They don't
Yep.
come with their own triggers. It's built into the mount. So when I set it down like this, the round went like this, straight through a flight deck. Well, it went through an I-beam first and then the flight deck because I was in the O3 mount or one of the O3 mounts. And it went through the flight deck. It rained shrapnel down around me. The other 6 individuals suffered serious consequences when the shrapnel came down in a cone around
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. Not to mention that went off that close to your face. The shockwave alone could have peeled your fucking skin off.
And that's what they said. But for a while, they had no idea that I was actually involved in the incident, other than the fact that I was there. That I would, that it happened right next to me because I couldn't hear for 3 days. So for 3 days, I walked around like I called the man down. I started doing first aid. One guy had a piece of shrapnel go through his arm. It looked like a 9mm round had passed through his arm. Right. We almost hit a fully loaded. We almost had a fully loaded helo go through the bottom of it. Uh, it didn't. It missed it, but so I became known on the ship as the first person to successfully fire upon a United States aircraft carrier since World War II. But I made it into the safety magazine. I had a chief or a senior chief years later that sit here and saw me and went, "That was you." So I
Oh
sit here
shit.
and um, but what I didn't know at the time was I had suffered a traumatic brain injury, and that's actually what caused me to be medically retired from the ship. I sit here and developed a brain tumor inside of my head, and it caused me to go blind. There are only 3 causes: traumatic brain injury, birth defect, and radiation. Now, it's possible radiation because I'm an ET after all. RF radiation is still radiation. But the doctors were reasonably sure that the tumor in my brain that caused my blindness, right, was caused by this traumatic brain injury. The fact that I couldn't hear for 3 days, the fact that I had shrapnel holes in my uniform but not in my body was a miracle. But
Yeah.
little did I know that it would eventually change my life fundamentally forever. Now, this whole time, I'm still on my whole I'm going to defend people kick. So, what did you say? I was already mental? Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
so fine. Fine. It's fine. So, I sit here. So, I had a lot of trauma when they were trying to kick me out because I didn't want to be. This was my home now. Right? I was perfectly fine. Right? Now, I still so Sea Bunny asked what was it like to suddenly hear again. I'm gonna tell you to walk around with cotton. I, I'm not telling her anything she doesn't know, but I still have 30% loss of hearing in both of my ears. Like there are certain tones that I can't hear at all. It's the e noises, like
Oh, so no
e's
brown
and
note for you.
like E's and C's and B's and G's. Those, de- and depending who's talking to me, I can't hear you at all. So
I I wanna get River Rat one day. I want to play the brown note for him, see what happens because he's already a loose cannon. So if we play that for him, God knows it might be a new spaceship in orbit.
so so we sit here and I
Britt, the
I
dark side always has cookies.
or gummies, either or. So so I sit here, and one day I was putting in my contacts, and I realized that I couldn't see out of my left eye at all. There was nothing. It was just black. And I went in to go check, and I said, "Hey, I think I need a new, because I'm an idiot apparently." I said, "Go, hey, I think I need to get my eyes checked." And go, "Why?" I think there's something wrong with my contacts. They're like, "What?" I said, "Yeah, I can't see out of my left eye." And everybody lost their shit because apparently losing one side function of your brain, they thought I was having a stroke,
Yeah.
right? And they sit here, and so they started running all of these situations, and uh, all of these scenarios and all of these tests, and they said, "Okay, you got two choices. You either have a tumor or you have a cyst. We're gonna side with cyst." I went, "Okay." So they said, "You'll be in and out of surgery in an hour and a half, and everything will be great. Your vision should return." And then it wasn't, and then it wasn't an hour and a half. It was 9.5 hours, because they realized when they went to go look at the nerve ending that the nerve ending in my left eye was dead, and the one in my right was dying. I had a brain tumor that fused itself to my optic nerves and to my pituitary gland. When they found out that that's what had happened, they said there is a 50-50 chance that you do not get off of the operating table. And if you do, your quality of life will be very, very low. Your pituitary gland is dead. Now, the pituitary gland being dead means that I don't have an immune system, which means I don't heal from injuries anymore, which is bad because I have cats and I have lots of scratches. Now, I have found ways to get around to jumpstart my uh, immune system that I can heal, but I sit here and um, I sit here and they gave me 6 to 9 months to live in 2003. And they told me that I was going to die. I made it off of the table, and they told me that I was going to die. And I was brand new married to the wonderful woman. I have been married less than a year. Uh, I had a stepson. Yes, that's why I was just a forehead and a single eye, because I have to hold the phone like this close. Wasn't for the fact that I don't have a 47-inch screen, right? Like 6 inches from my face, I wouldn't be able to read the comments. But so so they gave me 6 to 9 months to live, and here I am. But at the time, I went dark, right? I went very, very dark. I did a lot of stupid shit that my wife loves me despite me being stupid and being a huge risk taker.
So
And
I have a question.
okay.
Your cancer's in remission,
So this
correct?
is actually my fourth case of cancer that's in remission.
Okay. So you're batting 1,000 right now for beating it. Have you seen the fucking bionic eyeballs? Have you seen those?
Well, okay, so they won't take out my eye to put in the bionic one, because I asked, like I offered. So I work with the Lions Club, the International Lions Club, because they do the charity work for people who are deaf and blind, the Helen Keller Knights of the Blind, right?
Yeah.
So I got really big into service work after I got out, because I figured I had done a lot of bad shit in my life. I needed to balance ledgers. So I did a lot of service work. Like I was Santa Claus for a while. I sit here and I delivered presents. We worked in the food banks, and I would love to say that I was just altruistic, but it was one way that I could defend people from life, but also balance ledgers, right? That there is this darkness that I have to counteract, even though I know that I am not the product of what happened in my past. There's still
No.
that you are an evil fucker. You need to you need to repent or balance ledgers. So I would do all this service work. I go, hey, the eye is perfectly good. My left eye, totally good, right? You can just take it, right? Because then, you can do it after you're dead, but they won't do it when you're alive.
Well, that's kind of that defeats the purpose.
I know, but I'm not using it. I just put in one of those LED ones, look around like a cyborg. That would be fucking cool.
You see
I'd
that guy
rock
on?
that shit every
Did,
day.
did you see that guy on TikTok? He machines his own.
Yes.
He made that one with the fucking green laser in it, and he's got a remote control for that shit.
Yep.
He was fucking with them people at that park so bad, it was hilarious. Like, all right, you got dealt a shit hand, but doing shit like that with it,
Right.
bravo,
So
fucking bravo.
right. So I would sit here, and so I was doing a lot of service work, but it got to the point where my body was just breaking down that I couldn't walk anymore. I was tearing myself up. So in 2005, I could not walk anymore. I was in a wheelchair essentially, and I started to get fat. I mean, I'm still a little fat, but I started to get fat and lazy, and
That's
I
what the
was
beard's
in
for, right? Not the
yeah,
chins. That's why I
I was
have mine.
yeah. So I was in pain all of the time. On this, it got so bad that my doctor said that we need to change the pain scale. He says, "I'm going to ask you what your pain scale is, and then I want to ask you based on what somebody else would think." And I said, "Well, I don't know anybody else, so I'm just going to tell you mine." Apparently, everybody else's 6 or 7 is my 1 or 2, and that's not supposed to be that way. And I still had to deal with Navy doctors, and they're great. So the Navy doctors were just giving me painkillers. I had no I had I had no restrictions on the amount of pain medication I could take because I had 6 to 9 months to live, right? Even though I had surpassed that timeline, right? That they were just here, take all of this, take all of this, take all of this. And it got to the point where they're like, you need to sit here and uh you need to sit here and start taking what the fuck was it called? It's some sort of like not Lexapro. Something for your mood. It was a mood booster. I can't remember what it was called. And they said,
Succoxygen.
huh?
Succoxygen.
I don't know. I don't remember. It was so long ago. And I never took it. They go, well, we're gonna prescribe it with you, and you need to take it because you're depressed. I said, I'm not fucking depressed. I'm a realist. I'm not depressed. And they looked at my medical record. And when the Navy doctor closes your medical record and says that there's nothing that we can do for you and sets your medical record down and says, how can we make you happy? I said, I'm not depressed. He goes, well, you should be. Take this pill.
What?
He said I
You
should be
should.
depressed. He said I should be with everything that's wrong with me and the fact that I was facing my utter because remember, they still think I'm gonna drop dead at any moment.
Yeah.
So I sit here and I got into a really deep funk. I attempted suicide a few times. uh, and then in 2008, I was told that or in 2007, I was told that a miracle was about to happen. Another miracle in my life. And it was the fact that even though I'm not supposed to be able to have children, that my wife was pregnant.
Mom!
Merm, yes. And so it shook me to my core. I got rid of every pain med that I was taking at the time because I was literally a zombie in life. I didn't feel anything, right? But at the same time I didn't enjoy anything. Uh like I could feel extremes, but it was muted at best, right? So I sit here and told that I was going to be a dad. I quit all of that stuff and realized that I was a fat ass who was going to die from diabetes because when they took out my pituitary gland, ta-da, you now have two types of diabetes. So I had diabetes insipidus, which means your body didn't retain water. So you were eventually going to kill off your kidneys. And then I had regular type 2 diabetes because my pancreas didn't respond to the master hormones anymore. Right. So I was taking shot glass. I still take a lot of pills, but I was taking shot glasses of pills every day. Like I needed Synthroid because I needed an immune system artificially. I needed, or no, that was steroids. I needed Synthroid because my
It's enough to mess
thyroid
with
didn't
your
work.
fucking mental health as it is.
Right. I was taking, I was taking high blood pressure. I was taking triglyceride medication. I was taking uh, cholesterol medication. I mean, you name it, and I probably took it at some point. Right. When it comes to those types of conditions, to artificially get your process. And then when I found out that my son was pregnant, or my wife was pregnant with my son, I sit here and I went, all right, I need to change some shit. So I sit here and I decided that I'm going to get out of my wheelchair. I'm going to stop taking pain medication. I do not recommend that you do both of them at the same time because I put myself through hell. Because I cut off all pain medication and I started to work out. And in the process of doing all of that, I realized what pain, physical pain, really was. Like I had dealt with the mental pain, but I realized what physical pain really was. My legs were on fire. My spine, in addition to all of the stupid shit I did in the Navy, realized that I have 3 herniated discs, right? That I sit here and I have spinal stenosis, right? All of this crap just built on. And then in 2010, I found out I had cancer again, right? They had cut it out and they had been watching this cancer inside of my brain so much that they forgot that you can get cancer other places. So they found out that I had cancer again. And this time it was in my gums. And they cut it out. And luckily, I didn't have to go through any radiation. Don't like that stuff. And then after that, it's like every time I went to the doctor, something else was wrong because I had stopped taking the pills that held stuff back. My body was attacking me. So then it
Yep.
was skin cancer. And then it was this most recent bout. And it was just hit after hit after hit after hit. And I went, and then like I always worry that the diabetes is what's going to get me because I can deal with pretty much any amount of pain, even in my feet, right? But when they start talking about that, if you injure your feet, you could lose your feet. I go, look, I
Yep.
can deal with being blind, losing, no hair, being an ugly son of a bitch, but don't take my legs. You already took out my ability to drive, and I realized that that is from my past. My fear of losing my freedom is because of that. That so I started taking all these herbal supplements, and I have started to turn stuff around. But back in 2017, I completed my first 5K run. It took me 2.5 hours. Walk, run, or fucking crawl. And I crawled at the end of that. But I made it in 2017. And I kept going. And I kept going and I kept going. And I kept pushing and pushing and pushing and building back my body using an all natural approach. And I had a group of guys that they loved my progress. From 2017, where I finally got out of my wheelchair and did a 5K. In 2019, this blind motherfucker, while wearing a kilt, ran a Tough Mudder, an obstacle course race. I was the last person to cross the finish line, and I
Doesn't
don't
matter. You
care.
lost.
I don't care. I did all of it. I ran the 13.5 miles in the long Tough Mudder. I did every obstacles. They sit here and they offered to let me go around some. I said, I'll go around if I fail them, but I'm going to do every single one. And I did. I sit here and I had bruises and cuts in places I didn't think was possible. The funny part is that none of that pain bothered me. I had gotten into that mindset. So I was ready to go. But then it was then it was I need to continue on this progress because if I stop. So I set myself a goal that I wanted to complete in the Disney marathons. Right? They have the where you can do the 4 marathons in 4 days.
Yeah,
Right? I
yeah.
wanted to do that. The Goofy challenge. And I wanted to do that. But I'm a horrible runner. So I decided that I was going to beat the shit out of myself for 2 consecutive years. In 2020 and 2021, I ran 2,562 miles each year. I did the equivalent of running across the United States in a running challenge. No, I said I did it in a kilt. I did it in a kilt because they dared me that I couldn't. So I did
Next
it.
year he's doing the sundress.
I'm not doing it in a sundress. I'm not doing it in a kilt either. So one of my buddies, and it's still on YouTube, right? Now I wore the silkies underneath the kilt because I understood that there are places where you are hanging above people and there are things that I did not want to be shown. However, because of the mud, because of the color of the mud, it looks like my skin tone. So my buddy put it up on fucking YouTube showing my nuts or what he claims is my nuts all over the damn internet. And I'm like, whatever. So then I sit here and started running. That's why I'm never doing it in the kilt again. I want to
Yeah,
do smart.
he didn't do the tough murder. That was Silver Foodie. But anyway, go ahead, Pops.
Okay, so if you want to know everywhere that I got mud, everywhere. Kilts do not stop mud from going in bad places. And I also
I
found
don't
out
call it
that
the brown eye for a reason.
And I found out that wool kilts do not help when you have to pass through the electricity, especially when they're wet. I got hit like it's supposed to be random. I got hit in every obstacle course that had electricity every single time. Luckily, I'm in ET, so my threshold for taking electricity through the body is pretty good. So,
And we've seen
and
your hairstyle, so you do it for fun now.
hey, yeah, it's
See?
growing in. But so
Just in case anybody's wondering why he has a hat on, I told him he had to brush his hair for the podcast, and that's his fix.
yeah, I put on a hat. So I got hit with electricity in the middle of a thunderstorm while we're doing the Tough Mudder so many times. And I fractured a rib. Halfway through the race, they have this thing that's similar to the warped wall. And they have a rope that you can grab that will pull yourself up, right? Well, I ran up, and because I'm blind, I didn't see the rope, but the rope saw me. When I face planted into the side of the obstacle, my ribs were separated by a knot, one of the handholds. Fell in between the ribs, and I could feel it spread, and it was excruciating.
Yes,
And
it
they
is.
wanted to sit here and pull me away from the they wanted to sit here and pull me out of the race, and I told them no, I'll make it. So I ran the other half of the race holding the side of my ribs because every time I moved it was just excruciating. All right. So then I ran the 2,500 plus miles for 2020 and 2021 because it was where I did my thinking. Everybody was locked down. I thought it was entirely stupid because I don't have an immune system and nobody wears it during the regular flu season for me, so I don't care. Hey, I'll own it. I don't care. So So sit here, and I was like in excruciating pain. We made it through, and that was in Nashville. And then we sit here at, which is why when bad stuff happens in Nashville, it touches my heart, because I was doing a men's ministry at the time, and I work with the homeless as much as I can, like every weekend for a while is what we were doing. And then the town that I would visit the homeless people in, they made it illegal to be homeless. Uh, you had to go to a shelter, or you had to go to. So I had to go track down all the people that I had built relationships with to go bring them food and clothing and hygiene items, because they made it illegal to be homeless in my town. So when we went to Nashville, I decided that I was going to take the people who ran the Tough Mudder with me, and we were going to go. I had brought I had brought something like 1,000 pounds worth of hygiene supplies and food supplies and stuff like that to go deliver to
Yeah,
the people on the street. We went and found an organization called Matthew 25 Ministries.
I've heard of them.
Uh, yeah, and we sit here and we work with them. They wouldn't let us go in the building because of politics.
Yeah.
This is our area. But anything outside, they told us, anything outside, we could do whatever we wanted. So we walked through the streets of Nashville, and I got to show people who want to be good good do-gooders, right? What it really means to get down in the mud with those that have done it. Because I have been homeless multiple times, right? Usually when it was a discipline issue or hiding from certain organizations, but we won't go in there. But so we sit here, and uh, I took them out into the street with the bags that said, "Put your phones away, put your cameras away. You're not going to take a picture or get clout off of anything that we do here today, because I want you to understand what they go through, and you would feel like shit if somebody took a picture of you on your best day
Yep.
or on your worst day and then said, look, this is how this is." So we took them through, and I had them step out of the matrix, is what I call it, where they get on and they get in the mud with these people. And you realize the number of people that I'm sure are good-hearted people that subconsciously ignore what's going on around them. We went in the middle of downtown Nashville. You have all the sports bars and the drinking bars and all of that stuff, and people walk over them. But there's all the homeless that are along the side, and these people were either on their phones and ignored them, or walked over them and refused to look at them. We met veterans that had lost their veterans benefits because of drugs that they had to take because the government wouldn't give them any medication. There was one guy who we bought him a walker because he was using a broken walker held together by pencils that he found on the street and duct tape and shoelaces. Just let that sink in. This guy is a veteran from Vietnam who had a Purple Heart in his pocket, and the government and society had thrown him away.
Pops, I'll give you one up on that. Downtown Pittsburgh, they do their best to rouse the homeless on a daily basis. They do their best. There's a guy down there. He camps under a bridge that is right next to a Rite Aid. Right next to a Rite Aid. He has provided the police with descriptions of over 35 people that have tried to rob that store. He has stopped multiple muggings. The man is a veteran. They roust him and they throw him out. The same police that he helps throw him out of the street, out of the curb. They drag them out from underneath the bridge. It's disgusting what happens to our homeless.
They in the city that I help, I'll tell everybody because it's not surprised that I live in Florida, right? Because that's where apparently Crazy goes to retire. Uh, so so in Lake City, which is a town
Or,
just south of
or,
me, or down a ways, right? Which that's where the largest concentration of homeless people. They have the only soup kitchen within 120 miles.
Yeah.
but they can only serve 75 meals per day.
Yep.
So everybody congregates there, try to get underneath the overpass. They would drive them out, right? If you go talk to the homeless, the scenarios with the cops will make you not want to be a Blue Lives Matter person.
Nope.
They hit them with their patrol cars when they get
Yep.
near the streets. They will arrest them. If you're a veteran, they will send you to the VA shelter, but you have to lose all of your belongings and
Yep.
your dog. A lot of these people have dogs simply because they it's their best friend. So what does Lake City do? Lake City takes chain link fences and builds these chain link fences so that they can no longer stay under the overpasses. And then they
Yep.
go and patrol them.
What pisses me off the most is when you think about how much money we put into trying to stop the homeless people from, destroying part of the city, or, you know, defacing underneath the bridges, the overpasses, etc. We put fences up. We spend so many countless fucking man hours with police rousting them, transporting them. How much gas, how much wear and tear on the vehicles, etc. How much money could these cities save if they just built a tiny home community and put the homeless people in these tiny homes for a temporary position and provided them with counseling, drug counseling, alcohol counseling, and job seeking counseling? Instead of, oh, in order to collect, your welfare benefits, you have to go do this. They don't even do that for welfare recipients in PA or Ohio, mind you. You can get on welfare and you never have to fucking prove that you're hunting for a job, anything like that. So if we can let them get away with getting free food and $8 a month housing and this and that and the other, why can't we do that for our veterans, for our homeless people?
Right? Do you know what's sad? Is that they sit here, and I know that this is common in a lot of different places. Is that you see mostly men panhandling on the side of the street in the area that I'm in, and there's a reason for it. They have homeless encampments where the women and the children, who they're family units, right? The women and the children stay out of the way because it's dangerous for them, because they know that the cops are going to attack them. They know that people on the street can be crazy, and so they protect their women. And I appreciate that a lot because that sings to who I am, right? The protection. So I make sure that I bring extras. We do the home cooked meals. We make these large meals. We bring them out there. Look, it's like, look, we know that you guys have homeless encampments. Take this and take it back to your families. Here's some money. Here's some gift cards. So that, yeah, I always make sure and I check with the businesses that I hand out their um their gift cards to, that they don't have a problem with homeless people showing up. For example, in one of the overpasses that we go, there are two restaurants that are right next to the overpass. One is a Burger King and the other one is a Chick-fil-A. I buy strictly Chick-fil-A gift cards because I ask them, if I send homeless people in here with the gift cards, will you honor it and will you not harass them?
Yep.
Yes. Burger King says no. They have to fit a they have to fit, and this is from multiple managers. It's not just like some grumpy guy at the time, right? They have to have a minimum type of appearance, I guess, is the only way,
Cleanliness.
yeah, they don't want those types of they don't want them in their neighborhood.
Yep.
What people fail to realize is they are you, right? They are you, but one bad decision separates
Yep.
you from them. And
Yep.
America is about to find out how true that statement really is.
Yes, they are.
But so back in Nashville, this is what made me become a pastor. We were in Nashville and I watched a woman sleeping. It is it is 40 degrees, sleeping on the steps of a church while we were helping the homeless, right? Sleeping on the steps of a church. The pastor came out and told her to move, that she wasn't welcome there. Excuse me?
What?
Yeah. She was trespassing and he should have her arrested. She was sleeping on the stairs of a church on a Saturday.
It's at that moment that I would say, "Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned," and knock that son of a bitch on his ass.
So I decided that in the effort to protect people, that I was going to become a pastor. So that when people sit here, and I did all the schooling and all that stuff, and I decided that it got to the point where uh, I wanted to be able that when they had the hard questions, when they had the questions that people couldn't answer, right? That they could come to honestly, and I wouldn't sugarcoat anything for them. So mine is my my faith is Christian, but it's pre-denominational. If it's in the Bible, it's in the Bible. If it's not, it's not. Period.
Yep.
And I'm only going to teach from that because then I can't screw up. Right? My interpretation of certain scriptures, like you need to get a gun because Psalms 144:1 says he trains my hands for war, right? It may not necessarily agree with everybody else, but I'm not this hippy dippy,
Well,
Christian who lo- what?
didn't Jesus carry a sword?
He carried a whip. But he did tell his disciples that if you had a cloak and didn't have a sword, you should sell your cloak and buy one.
Yep.
So I decided that I was going to go against all of this. We are words only type of Christian, and that we are actions. I was a youth pastor for a while, and then I sit here and uh, I had problems with the way they wanted to treat their children like they lived in little glass house closets where they're protected and it's all, love everybody and, God is love. And, yeah, okay, he is. I'm not going to debate that, but you need to look into that scripture.
Look,
What?
if you look closely, you'll see an idiot walking in the door. Come on in.
So,
Yes, Brandon. Jesus told his disciples to carry. Stay
yep,
strapped or get clapped. I'm pretty sure that's in there somewhere.
that's the uh I don't give a fuck a cons book, chapter 13.
Verse 1 through 7.
Right. It's like,
He collaborated with Tupac on that one.
right. People either twist scripture or they pick the verses that they like, but ignore the
Yeah,
rest. And
yeah, but we saw that this past week with a Lady of the Night, did we not?
yeah. But
And,
that's oh go ahead.
oh no, I lost my train of thought. Go ahead.
But so I did that. That's why, we started the podcast. Our other podcast, the one that me and Chum do, because we wanted to do prepping. We wanted to inform people of the news, and we wanted to give them, if not entirely biblical, like I'm the biblical one and Chum is not, but we sit here and give honest news, right, about what's really happening and how to prepare for what's coming. Right. Again, it all leads to my desire to protect people. I know what's going to happen. I know what is coming. I have the book, damn it. Right. And for those of you who don't know, the story about the book is I am a student of history, philosophy, and psychology. So add those three together plus the Bible. I can pretty much predict what's going to happen.
Is that why
And
you hang out with Tom? Because he challenges all of that,
yes, that is exactly why.
especially especially the psychology part.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I appreciate, right, a lot of people, which is why I'll go to bat for Chum on anything and I don't give a fuck. Because he's one of the people that are straight honest that will sit here and be like, look, I think this is fucked up. Justify your reasoning. And I can justify it pretty well. Like we can go back and forth on scripture all the time, right? Or philosophy. And he has helped me harden some of my positions and I have helped him soften some of his. Right. For example, I think the first conversation me and you ever had was when I sit here and said, I don't think that you should be going after people. Right. I think that was the first conversation we had on a live.
I
And
think it was.
and I said, I don't have a problem with people do it. Like I can understand when Chum
Matter,
does it because they came after
matter of
him.
fact, you're right. It was that night that Chum invited me into your podcast.
Yep. And I said, I am not the type of guy that's going to come after you just for words because I've seen too much in my life. I've been through too much shit to let what people say on a social media app fuck with me. Right
Well,
now,
now
you
you've seen
you fuck with my
exactly.
family, and it's a whole different ball game. And
Well, now you've
me
seen
and you
exactly
have
the depths.
me and you have become like family. So it's like you want to fuck around and find out. Let's do it. Right.
Yep. Well, you've
The
seen the
problem,
depths that they'll go to with their words.
right? And that's what shocked me the most back in August of 21 was I saw somebody who I thought I could trust use my story to call me an international human trafficking agent. Right? That I had these brothels and camps, and then they accused me of being a murderer. There's a difference between killing and murder,
Is
right?
this the same person who did the same thing to Chum?
They're in the same group.
Oh, okay, okay.
So, and it kind of works out because we have people who are, in our family we have people who are the attack dogs. We have people who are the strategists, the ones that are, hey, maybe we should do this, or they're the idea people, and then you have the people that are the heart. And we give the people with the heart a lot of shit, but we need them because if not, we just become these clinical fucking attack dogs. So I like the dynamic, and I love all of the villains because they're a unique mix and they don't judge. And if the people that Sahir claim that we were actually the villains in their story actually knew who we really are, they would not they would not come after us. We do good things. We do good things and we don't go on TikTok and brag about it.
No.
Like when the hurricane happened. You had all these people that would go on and go, look at all of these things I did for the hurricane. I said nothing, but we sent stuff. We did stuff. We helped with cleanup,
Yep.
but I didn't do a TikTok because it didn't fucking matter. That's not the point. So I decided that I was going to partner with some other churches to go deal with the homeless problem. And uh, when I got there, they were all super judgmental. Oh, they smell bad. Oh, they smell like beer. They're probably drunk. They're all these things, right?
Yeah.
And I looked at the dude because he brought out his phone. I told him to put it away. And he says, well, before we feed you and give you these things, we're going to talk about God. And I said, I'm going to stop you right there.
Yeah. No.
Even Jesus understood that you took care of their physical needs before you take care of their spiritual needs. Because they're not going to be receptive. They will agree to anything you say. That is why when he had those large groups when he fed the 5,000, there were tons of people following him. But when it got to the times of persecution, there was nobody there. Nobody there.
Yep. Well,
Because
they'll follow
there
along
weren't
as long
food
as they
time.
think that you're. They'll follow the power as long as they think that the power is going to win.
Right. That
And when
Bible
it
that you
stops
just gave
winning,
them, they're going to use it as toilet paper.
when they
They're going to
stop
use it.
winning,
Yeah.
I think we all know that feeling, right?
Yeah. So,
Yeah. I know how they treated him when Houston got hit a few years back. What was that? 08? Somewhere
uh,
back then.
yeah, something like that.
We took truckloads of water down and supplies and everything. I volunteered my time to drive them down there. And like you said, there was some that they weren't going to hand anything out until they had a fucking tent revival sermon up front. And I opened the back of the truck. I'm like, yeah, no, fuck this shit. Let's go.
Yep.
Like, we need to make a turnaround. So get this off the truck, hand it out to the people that need it. We'll be back with another one. In the meantime, do whatever you want.
So yeah, so it just made me so disgusted. And then I went to his church, Now, this was the guy in charge of the men's ministry at that church. Got up on stage and talked about how horrible the conditions were, how bad they smelled, all of that stuff. My wife, who is usually quiet in public, stands up and ridicules this guy in the middle of his church. How dare you sit here and take credit for all of this stuff when you didn't do any of it? I sit here and brought all of the supplies, or me and my wife brought the supplies, right? We did all of that. How dare you say she went off? He didn't ask for any credit. He didn't take any pictures. He just wanted to help people because he wanted to fucking help people. And you want to take credit for it in front of your church to sound righteous. And that was the last time we ever went to that church.
See, the last time I set foot in a church, not to interject your story, but my ex-wife, the church in town, everybody that was anybody went to the church, and we would go, and we weren't married at the time. We were only married for 5 years before I ended up divorcing her, but we were together for 21. And the pastor kept making comments like you going, saying these ignorant pastors kicking somebody off of a step and when it's cold outside and so on. This pastor would sit there and tell us that he wouldn't even tell us. He made it part of his sermon to sit there and preach about living in sin and having children out of wedlock and this and that and the other. And I'm looking around and I'm like, you have married 9/10 of the couples in this church. You are talking about us. And I called him out on it one day in the middle of his sermon. I'm like, if you have something to say, fucking open your mouth and say it. And the lady that led, I don't know what they called the little old biddies at a church that put their nose in everybody's fucking business.
Holier than thou row.
Yeah, there we go. She stands up, front row, of course, and she's like, yes, of course he's talking about you. You're living in sin. And I'm like, actually, I sinned with her this morning before we got showered to come here. But, that's none of your goddamn business now, is it? We stopped going.
So part of my story that I kind of skipped over because I wanted to do the whole religious thing, but it just kind of goes that way, is when they told me that I had a 50-50 chance, I had a moment of perfect clarity. It was at that moment I realized that I was going to hell and I didn't care. All right. I had deserved it. I realized it's that moment of perfect clarity in your head, right? I was a witch prior to that. Like, not the whole Wicca good, white magic. No, I was when they talk about the rule of thumb or the rule of three, right? Where they sit here and the whatever you do comes back. Well, the universe wants a balance. I was gladly the balance, right? Which means I got to be 3 times as evil as everybody else simply because there has to be a balance. So I knew where I was going. Like, absolutely knew where I was going. And I had a moment of perfect clarity. So I decided that I needed to get my life straight. So I decided that I was going to find churches, right? But I didn't go to church in a t-shirt or a suit or anything. I wore exactly what I wore when I was deep into the occult, right? I wore the necklaces. I wore the I wore the ceremonial gear and walked in. Moses couldn't split the Red Sea faster than I could split that congregation in the church. There was legitimate fear that the devil had shown up in their church. And I knew that wasn't the church for me.
Just dip your finger in the holy water on your way.
I actually did that with dry ice one time just to see what they would do. It was awesome. But anyhow, so because I'm a practical joker, but they would split or they would all isolate me, and then suddenly the sermon was about witchcraft and cavorting with demons. Yeah, I already know that, asshole. That's why I'm in the church. Hello? Hospitals aren't for healthy people. Hospitals are for sick people. Churches aren't for saints. Churches are for sinners. That's why I'm fucking here. But so it really helped me eliminate which church I was welcome in and which church, at least had the basic. And then it's like, fuck it, I'm gonna start my own church. So, but so I went and I got my my certificates and I got all my qualifications and started my own church. Pastor Peach. Shit, that name keeps getting worse and worse. But so so we sit here and so I have I have zero tolerance. I, I have zero tolerance for people who use victim mentality because of now I know everybody heals with it, but if you're going to claim to be a victim, your mindset is already flawed. The number of because I started to work with once I realized what human trafficking actually was and started to work with these organizations, right? I began to realize that uh, the majority of the children or the women, once they get past their initial healing phase and the shock dies down, they don't refer to themselves as victims. They refer to themselves as survivors. And for anybody who's gone through trauma, like I don't normally like to compare what I have gone through, the level of pain that I have gone through, the trauma that I have gone through. I don't like to compare it to other people because I don't like that as a concept. Oh, well, you did that. Well, I'm this way. Oh, yeah. Well, I did that. I'm this way. I hate those people. I'm sorry if anybody is that one of those people. I despise that behavior. Right. To the comparing of trauma. Everybody deals with trauma differently. Everybody deals with, you know, everybody had bad shit happening to them. You need to
Yep.
understand that pain in this world is fucking normal. Suffering is optional.
Everybody's got a story. Own yours, but don't fucking make other people own it.
Right. And don't sit here and go, well, I'm a better person than you because I rose above more than you have. That shit drives me crazy. And Christians are the worst. They call it testimonies, right? Who can be the worst, when it comes to testimony? My favorite testimony of all time was a pastor that I once knew, and his testimony was this: I grew up in the church. I was raised in the church. I became a pastor when I was 14 years old. I started preaching the word, and I went through some shit. I went through the military. We did some shit that was unsavory. Right? I'm still a pastor now, but I have followed the path. You want to know why? Because it fucking gives me hope, right? That it's
You
possible.
know what? Some of the most chill, most human priests, pastors that I have ever met came out of the fucking service. Plain and simple, came out of the service.
Oh yeah,
They've lived life. They know that we're insane for one, and we're going to test every aspect of their faith that they possibly have while they're in there. And they come out and they're like, "Oh, you think your husband's cheating on you? Okay, come on, we'll talk about it because that's nothing. Let me tell you about this."
right. I love it when you can get a pastor who just rips open a scripture and go, "I know you're going through some shit. Here's some precatory prayers."
Yep.
What
Here,
type of
read,
prayers? They're
read this
prayers
shit and
where
call
you're
me up.
cast. They're prayers. They're psalms in the Bible where you pray down curses on your enemy. Hell yeah,
Read
I
this,
want those.
read this shit and give me a call on Tuesday if you ain't figured it out yet. That's the
Right,
kind I like.
but so
What the hell is this?
what is what?
Oh, nothing, nothing. They're just putting
Oh,
new toys on here.
okay. So I sit here and that is my basic story. I don't tolerate bullshit. I don't tolerate bullshit from my family, and I don't tolerate bullshit from other people. And I do want to say this. I have made this comment multiple times, but apparently I'm really good at disappearing from people's memories. So allow me to impart some wisdom. You don't have to care about other people. You don't have to give a fuck about their feelings. There is nothing in the social contract that says that you have to care what everybody thinks or says. The biggest trap that humans fall into is thinking that what other people's opinions are of you fucking matters. It doesn't. It at all. Don't care. They come after you, fuck them. They sit here, they want to attack, fucking attack back. And attack back with the viciousness that the motherfuckers never want to fight you again. Let's
Pops,
be honest. I'm tired of this bullshit where, you know, well, you don't care. You're right. I don't fucking care about your disability. I do not care about your emotions. I do not care about your mental health. I do not care. I don't have to. There is a group of people that I am allowed to care about or not care about, right? They are family and friends. Those are the only ones I'm concerned about. Just to be advised, if you come after them and I come after you, I don't give a fuck about consequences. I don't give a fuck about your thoughts of me. I don't give a fuck that you dox me. I am fucking retired. I got nothing but goddamn time. Yes, okay. But Thumper, that doesn't count. I tolerate you because I love you. That's a huge difference. Like I tolerate shit that Merm does all the time, and that dude is a walking, talking fucking troll. Who just happens to be fucking 6'6" and 330 pounds. So I mean it's like,
who's a troll?
huh?
Who's a troll?
Merm.
Oh yeah, yep.
He's my youngest.
Talk. I got a message from Temple. She went through this storm that is like teasing us over here, and a tree fell through her roof of her house.
Oh shit.
I just sent her an Amazon. I just sent her an Amazon link to skylights.
Hold on. Nope, wrong one. That one. Bullshit. Bullshit.
What? Oh my god. Oh, I got dizzy from that one. Oh, what? What the fuck? Where's the holy water, Pops?
There ain't enough holy water in the planet for that shit.
I got whiskey.
Whiskey might work.
Yeah. Especially with that one.
So there are certain people that I have loyalty and that I love from the bottom of my heart. And if I haven't told you, I know that most of you are in this chat. I want you to know that me telling my story is incredibly difficult mentally for me because it makes me go into the dark again. And there's always that risk that I don't come back.
You'll be all right.
No, I get it.
Thumper, I'm sorry, but you know when you get like a message screen on the front of it that says "I give up," I'm gonna answer the message.
No, that's totally cool. Like which is I because of what I've done, it's really hard for me to let go of people who are toxic, which is why me and Chum had some friction for a while because I was on Swede's side for a long time.
I know.
Swede and Amanda and Mandy, because they sit here and when I had to leave the app for my son's mental health, who was absolutely terrified that people were coming from him, and I left the app, I told them somebody betrayed me. I don't know who it is. And then I left. He and them still argued against the Pruite people, right? At the time. Little did I know that they were the ones spreading the story. Or so I've been told. Right? I had no idea. They were I thought that they were. So when I eventually came back to the app, and it was only to sit here and get our podcast out, right? When I came back to the app just to focus on the podcast, right, I had realized what had changed, and I was like, I cannot believe that this is it just.
There was this jackass that wore a mask that just fucking threw a wrench, a huge stone into the middle of conservative TikTok, and just watched all the fucking ripples go out.
Well, I didn't even start TikTok on the conservative side at all. Like
Not my
at all.
fault. It's not
I
my fault.
lost I lost my big TikTok, which was motivational after January 6th. I just lost it, right? But I decided to start another TikTok account, right? But I was gonna, if they were gonna attack me for that, then fuck it, I'm gonna go all in on conservative TikTok. Right? I ran into people like Ship and uh, Kit Kat, right? That I ran into those people, and I'm gonna be honest. I thought, and I don't know if she's still in here. Uh, I'm gonna be honest. The people like Kit Kat drove me crazy because they weren't Q, but they were Q adjacent and spiritual, and that shit just drove me crazy, right? But even though when we went back and forth, right, when she started to talk about EO esophageal something in the throat, EOE or something like that.
Who? Cat?
My wife started to
Oh,
get that stuff, and Kat had talked about it. So
yeah.
I sit here and I say, "Look, I know we haven't always got along, but I have questions." And she made a video explaining that I need to be patient, that I need to go at her case. Because let's be honest, if I had to take on every disease in my family, I would gladly do it, right? Oh, your wife
You lose
has
your mind.
breast cancer. I'll take it. Give it to me, right? Or bad stuff happens. I will take it. I am strong enough to take that shit. Right. I've been doing it my entire life and I'm not fucking afraid of it. Just let my family be happy and healthy. And then this physical stuff started to happen with my wife and I was just fucking crazy. And Kat really helped me out. She sat here and she started to give me advice on how to treat her and politics didn't matter, right? Politics, opinions didn't matter. You needed help. And that's you needed help. You needed, to talk about to talk about all of the craziness that had, you know, about the medical condition that she was willing to just be there, right? Was something that I wasn't used to seeing on TikTok. Right? Everybody was combative or they had their own agenda. So for somebody that was having an issue with to pause and explain to me in excruciating detail, right? All of the things that I needed to sit here and do and get pat like, okay, politics is something we talk about, but it's not something we live. That's gone. That's gone on TikTok. You can't do that anymore. But Kat became one of the people that no matter what she said, I was never going to do a clapback on her because she was there for my wife. She sat here and talked, right? That about my wife. She had enough respect that I'm not coming after her. Now,
Yep.
Tex, on the other hand,
You know what? You talk about Cat and Tex. I actually followed Run Just Run, Paris, Grumpy Gay. I followed that other side of shit for the longest time. And that's through, how should I, All American Amy. She had uh, the My Fetus Chose Me chick come after her. Now, I had stayed quiet. I had stayed politic up until that point. I didn't attack anybody, etc. And I went after that stupid bitch. Yes, I'm going to call her a dumb bitch. Uh, and I ended up following him with Misfit Danny. Well, when I started chatting it up with Misfit Danny, I ain't throwing no shade here. Um, she pointed out a certain person that was on the inner circle of those people that I was following, who was sitting there threatening the lives of leftist creators. Now, I've never threatened anybody's life, anything like that. I did threaten to punch FJB Bryan in the mouth so hard that it fixed his speech impediment, but that's a different story. There's your soundbite for TikTok, sweet. Yeah, eek, thumper, eek. But I had the, if anybody, I mean, Pops knows. Chum knows, and most of the people in this chat know. I mean, you've mostly seen the inside of my house so far. I'm a comic book geek. I mean, for fuck's sake. I got Iron Man, Batman. They're everywhere. They're everywhere. I had printed a Doom mask, so I put it on and I started going after a guy that I had followed because he wanted to threaten people's lives. And then through all that, I saw what Misfit and Paris and all them were doing to Kat and Jeff. And I was friends with Amanda and Mandy for a minute. And they talked all that shit on Chum, and I kind of distanced myself. And then they wanted me to go after, like I've said on the podcast, they wanted me to go after Scrappy Fireball. I had no reason to go after Scrappy Fireball. None. And that didn't sit right. So then I fell in with Chum. And then I had the misfortune of meeting Inked. I'm playing. And then I met Pops. And it's all been fucking downhill since then. No, but there are people, and most of you are in the chat right now and in the box beside me. I'll fucking swing for it. No ifs, ands, or buts. I'll fucking swing for you. Chum knows that I keep some people on my list simply because I keep an eye on a lot of things at all times. And I don't know. I'd never heard your story before tonight, Pops.
So yeah, I don't like to talk about it mostly because it makes me feel icky. But I will do it. Like Mama Bear always reminds me. That's my wife, by the way. We've been married for 20 years now, even though I'm a fucking moron. Right? She's a saint.
Oh my god.
So she's a saint. She puts up with all of my shit and shenanigans. She still gives me a ration of shit when I cut the end of my thumb off. She still sit here and, she gives me shit when I need to be. She is the yin to my yang. Right? I would not be here if it wasn't for her. I guarantee it. I would be dead. Guaranteed. I love her to death. She's the most important thing. And if you think I will do bad things for the people in this chat, come after my wife.
Yep.
I will kill you, your wife, your family, your extended family, and the bitch you took to the prom. But
yeah, I thought you met me through Chum. What the fuck did you do to me, Chum? Why did you put me in these situations?
But so she's here. She keeps me on the straight and narrow. She keeps my even keel, right? Like one of us is only ever mad at a time. Either I'm mad and she calms me down, or she's mad and I calm her down. If we ever get mad at the same time, somebody's going to jail. Just saying. But well, it's not us going to jail.
The term is fight nice, Heidi. Fight nice, not play nice. Fight nice.
I give you better friends. So, but yeah, so that's my story. That's why I don't tolerate a certain amount of bullshit.
She has no idea how many people I did that to.
I didn't even know. Like, I didn't follow you until you were in the live. When I said that I had to apologize to you because I understood why you fought. I didn't follow you before that. Because I thought that you were this pain in the ass person. Like you were Chum times 10. Chum would attack, but you did all of this evil shit.
I am the pain in the ass evil person.
Yeah, but it's understandable.
It's not me that's changed. It's not me that's changed. It's you. It's you.
I'd go with that.
No, you're right. I don't think I ever did see you until that night Chum brought me into that podcast. I had heard of you.
Yep.
I had heard of you, but through the same people that told me all about Chum. And I just... There are certain people that when somebody brings them up, I'm like, okay, fuck them, whatever. I think you were one of them people until, the angry fucking garden gnome over there brought me in, and you're like, I do have to say I'm sorry. You're going after people. And I'm like, wait a minute, who the fuck are you?
Much like with Chum all the time. Chum still sits here and goes, "My number one accomplishment is I got Pops to agree that sometimes there can be no peace, that there can be no mediation, and there can be no middle ground with certain individuals." And that was really hard for me because I'm a stoic by nature, right? I all things in moderation, right?
Yes.
But I always forget, when it comes to the primary virtues that. So I'm not above apologizing if my thought pattern was wrong. That if people show their ass, at some point you go from being a stoic to a fucking theistic barbarian, where you just beat the shit out of them, and
Well,
I'm okay with that.
I think Chum and Inked and Thumper and you have realized that I'm not. I will go at somebody like no other. I will go at them with everything I can, and I will be an ignorant, evil little fucking prick to somebody when I have to be. But they have to do shit to push me to that point.
Oh yeah.
Up until that, I'm gonna let it sit there. I'm gonna let them fill up that fucking jar, and I'm gonna let them do their thing. I'm gonna let them fucking run their mouth. I'm gonna let them sit there and say what they want to say. I'm not gonna say anything. When there comes that point where I've just had enough, I'm gonna fucking tear into them. So I don't just go at people to go at people. Swede has been, let's face it, it's been going on for almost a year, and it's just been fun. Yes, I'm an asshole. It's been fun making you cry like a bitch.
Well, what's
So,
funny is I didn't even think of Sweden when all of this stuff happened, when I came back from the app and realized that I had been, that who had set me up, right? And he was crying mental illness. I didn't talk about him. He didn't exist to me. I didn't fucking care, right? And then all of the sudden, he wanted to sit here and use my name, right, to go after Chum, saying that, yeah, I remember when Papa Bear ran off the app because they were accusing him of some shit and he was crying in my DMs. I have that TikTok saved because it reminds me that some people just need to be obliterated. That some people just need to go fuck themselves.
well, look what
That
he did. I believe it was Amber Lynn, wasn't it? Amber Lynn and Dougie Bear and uh, Okie Jess. That one of them left just laughing faces in a video I had made about Sweet. And he went on like a fucking 15 video week long fucking tirade about these people. And I'm like, look, I ain't said shit about him in a week. He's just going after anybody. He's going after the people in the comments. And then he did it to Chum, and then by proxy, you, and by proxy, Inked. And then he did it to Britt Main, and look, lo and behold, not 2 weeks later, in falls Flamingo Girl and in falls Treadstone. Because they associate with Britt Main. And I never said a bad word about Britt. I could now that I know her and talk about her. I mean, to her. She's going to be fucking shitting biscuits over there. But, like, he was part of the Amanda and Mandy wanted him gone after when, what was it, Chum, you were friends with them, and they wanted you to go after Swede. And then
oh,
it was,
I was in that signal group. Amanda
okay,
was so distraught that me and Chum went into a signal group with her and talked to her and tried to calm her down because she was so pissed off at Swede for the things that Swede had done and then the shit that Adam had done. She wanted us to go after Adam.
yep.
She sicked Chum and me after those two. I didn't do it because it's not who I am. I will take everything that you have on social media and condense it into a 3-minute clip. And I will show you for exactly who you are. I don't have to yell at you because I will let your own words condemn you. Right. And she cried in the chat with us for hours at a time. and in the chats over and over and over again. All of this stuff that she wanted to cry that she had left the app for a while. All right. And then we fixed it. And then, or we had gotten her revenge. She decided that she was going to go back on the app. And I'm like,
Well, look, pattern. You want to talk about pattern? Swede says that he shows our words to prove a pattern. Okay, you prove a pattern that we are petty, we are ignorant, and we like to go after you because you're easy prey. Uh, but Amanda's pattern is she does ignorant fucking shit and runs from the app, gives it a little bit of time, and then she comes back when she thinks the water has settled. You know, point in fact, let your man beat you some more. Texas red flag. Remember that? And
yeah,
ain't gonna lie, she got ran the fuck off the app. And Ashley Taylor, by the way, takes all responsibility for running her off the app. If anybody wants to hear that audio clip, I'll gladly play it for you. But yeah, the water's settled. Ashley's back on that side, and they're back on the app, causing their shit again. But they love you, Pops. They do. They love you.
they can't get my name out their mouth. But they only use me when they want to go after other people. They never directly come at me. And I'm not on the app anymore. That's why I'm like, I don't give a fuck. Please record this. Record the part where I'm crying. Right? Here's my plan. Record the part where I'm talking about my history so you could try to use it against me where I'm at the edge of tears and I'm crying because I'm going through the trauma. Please put that on the app and then attack me for it. Because do you know what's going to happen? The number of people who are going to see you show your own ass that you would attack somebody who is a human trafficking survivor. Same shit I said about TARP. I said, please fucking come after me. Please come after me. Because I am a human traffic. When he said that men who are sexually assaulted are weak, I said, please, I'm calling your ass out. Come have a debate with me. Because if you try to sue me, the headline is human trafficking disabled veteran, human trafficking survivor slash disabled veteran attacked by the lead singer of Trapped. Who's going to
Yep.
win the headline? That's me.
Yep.
So
Thumper.
it's like,
Amanda's
do it.
pattern: eat, cry, drink, White Claw, repeat.
Fair.
Yes, Thumper. They love to demand who people can be friends with, and if you haven't noticed, that's a pattern with all the people that like to sit there and run their mouths about us. Adam, uh, Swede, Amanda, Mandy. Who else was it? Oh, I haven't brought his name up in quite a while. Disavowed. You know, since he went in somebody's video the other day. They sit there. Oh, if you're friends with Joe, you're a piece of shit. You're a bigger piece of shit as he is. And if you're friends with Chum, you're a fucking horrible person. If you're friends with Brandon, da da da. You know what? I would rather have any one of the people in that chat over there, and probably 30 or 40 more on TikTok, to call my friends, not just people that I talk to online. I'd rather have any one of them to every single fucking one of you. Because I've got Chum over there who notices when I'm quiet. I've got Brandon over there who notices when I'm quiet. Brandon, who out of the fucking blue, if I'm acting out of character, will fucking call me up and say, hey, what's going on? Or, you know, tell me about some fucked up shit that's going on in his life. I've got Thumper who sends me some very fucking wild Snapchats. I got Britt Main telling me not the fuck. I'll find somebody eventually. I'll be able to buy my house eventually. Doing nothing but fucking blowing me up, lifting me up. And I realized today, after talking to some of you, and I'm out of that funk I was in yesterday. These are the people that I will fucking call when I have a problem. This man right here, I'll call when I have a fucking problem. And
Well,
I
I
do have
appreciate it.
all of
I call you too.
I have
Remember,
all of them.
remember,
I have all their phone numbers. I'm not calling them.
You can call me. I don't ever sleep. So
Yeah, I did want to talk to you about that. What the fuck, man? Like, I know I barely sleep. What the hell you got going on?
I get 3 hours.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. You're 3 hours. I'd have killed for 3 hours the other night. I anybody has me on Snapchat and saw my chili dog, chili cheeseburger, and chili fried dinner.
Come here.
Worst mistake I could have made.
Come here. Come here. You can cover your face. Come here. Come here.
Who's that, Merm?
Merm.
He can put his face on here. Anybody
Oh
fucks
no
with
no
him,
no
he'll have
no
the
no.
whole
I
army.
don't I don't I don't put his face on social media ever.
Oh, okay. Does he need a mask? I can make him one.
He's got a panda mask. He's all pandas.
We're not gonna do the panda. What kind of mask you want, buddy?
Joe says, "What type of mask do you want?" I don't know. What type of mask do you want? Do you want to put on my bear mask? Here, just okay. Look, this. I'm 6'2" and I have pretty large hands. Right? Stick your hand in. See that shit?
Does he play football?
No,
He should.
he could swallow up my whole hand with just his fingers. I'm like, holy crap! Size 15 shoe.
Britt Main, I don't
Okay.
think that's where he was going with the conversation.
Did I say 6'4"? I meant 6'5". Sorry.
Oh, Pops, anything else you want to add?
No, I'm good. I sit here and I told basically the gist of why I don't deal with the bullshit on the app and why I am the way I am. It's because of the trauma. But I do want to tell people that it doesn't matter what you've been through. Your trauma is your trauma. You don't have to care about anybody else's trauma but your own because you're responsible and only you are responsible from going from the you are a victim to you are a survivor. That is your chance to sit here and it is you are the light for somebody else who's currently trapped in the darkness. I want everybody to remember that. Nobody gives a shit about you. But if you can be an example to lead somebody through that darkness, you should take that opportunity to do it. And we're not going to put up with the whole victim mentality. I made that list on that 40-second video that everybody fucking lost their shit about, right? Because I said that victim card revoked. What you consider this breaking trauma, I consider a fucking Tuesday. And when you realize that it's relative like that, that pain and trauma is relative, then have some compassion. But if the motherfucker won't let you have compassion and won't let you heal and won't let you be in your peace, bring full fucking war. Be good until it's time to not be good.
Wake up and choose violence.
I do that a lot now.
Yeah. Well, Pops, I do want to thank you for coming on. I do want to thank you for sharing your story with us. Especially me. I hadn't heard it up to this point. I think Chum and the rest of them knew. I had no idea.
Yeah, I keep
And
it usually under
I
wraps,
just,
but
I just want to let you know that it doesn't change how I look at you.
I know. It is more a inside my own head thing than it is what like I don't care what other people think of my story, right? But
Well, I wanted to tell you, Kat did pop in earlier and said hello to you and whatnot. She couldn't stay and watch. She has similar experiences, so
oh, I get it. I understand, and that's why I don't talk about it. There are some people that it just triggers, and I don't ever want to cause with my trauma. I don't want to throw it on anybody else. So
yeah. Well, I will say that Friday night at 8 p.m. back on here, we're gonna have Tiffany, Flamingo Girl. She's gonna come on and she's gonna talk about her fight with her cancer and her fight with her daughter's epilepsy, among other things that have went on with her. And we're gonna touch on wouldn't you know it, the same group of people using her trauma against her.
That's why I agreed to do the podcast to tell my story. I want them to come after me because it will show how many people, and it will show people who normally, if I say something, they're going to ignore me simply because of who I am and who I associate with. Please
I just want to point out,
attack me on my story, because then you'll get people who are the bigger accounts that know me, that I've interacted with. When they see it and see how you're attacking it, do it. Do it.
I'd like to point out that we've had a handful of these stories, these story podcasts, and each and every one of them, there's a pattern. Pay attention to it. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, Pops, thank you for coming on. All of you goons over in the comment section, love you all. I will talk to you in the multitude of group chats that we got going on. And Chum, I fully expect you to reactivate your account the moment somebody starts coming after Pops for his part here tonight. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, we are at the 2 hour mark. So, Pops, thank you again.
You're welcome.
And I hope to see you Friday, at least in the comments.
I'll be here.
All right, brother. I will talk to you later.
All right.
Have a good night, folks.